Wow. You sound very demure.
I'm so sick of this fucking word. Where did this come from?
Oh my gosh. You
It
don't
popped
know
up.
the original creator?
No, I don't.
This is like incredible trans woman
Okay.
who made a video of herself being like, you see how I'm going into work right now? Like basically saying you guys are going into work looking trashy.
Got it.
She's like, and I'm looking very tasteful, very demure. You don't see my,
Got
she said, I've got only a little bit of chichi, no chocho. Which I really liked.
Welcome to Shoot Your Shot, the podcast about photography. Myself and Lindsay are wedding and portrait photographers. We answer your questions, hot takes, anything to do with photography. No settings, just business and like
no
ideas.
settings.
We start every episode by rolling the magical 8-ball. Lindsay, will you grab it, please? One day I'll put it on my side.
Oh, I didn't
We're
get
here.
the tape. I thought I took the tape with it.
Listen, I have no questions other than will this demure thing stick around longer than we think it should?
Oh, hell no. This thing's gone by already, I think.
You think?
Like, by the time of listening, Demure is dead.
Okay. I've seen a few TikToks
You
and
know
a few
what's really
reels.
nice, though?
What's that?
So this woman posted a thing being like, you know what I think you should do? You guys should post the video, because her posting this video and the amount it's been reshared and the amount of people that have actually tagged the correct creator, which is really critical and lovely when people do that. She's paid for the rest of her surgery to transition. So I
Good for
just
her.
thought slay.
That's amazing.
Big ol' slay. And
Yeah.
I think that is demure as heck.
And that's paid for itself.
And also, and I can't wait for it to go away. Although the 8-ball says don't count on it. Demure
Okay.
might be around. So I think the 8-ball is wrong on this one, but that's okay.
Okay, we'll let it go.
We'll find out.
We've got a question today. More of a hot take, more of an idea that one of our viewers, listeners, subscribers wants us to react to.
Okay.
And I'm going to pull it up. And it's very interesting. Do you want to read this one? Do you want me to
Yeah,
read this
no,
one?
I want to read this.
Okay, we'll
Let
go
me
to it right
see
now.
it. Okay. I recently had a situation where another local wedding/portrait photographer quite blatantly copied my work. Ooh. The photographer follows me and interacts with my work regularly. I didn't think much of it when I saw it, kind of bummed me out, but it was obvious enough that multiple other photographers reached out to me because they noticed and were taken aback. To be totally honest, I'm not losing sleep over it. However, my shots were part of an engagement shoot, so I would hate for my couple to feel like this fun, unique idea we had was either copied from someone else or made less special by having it reproduced. And then this is from our anonymous submission. They said this to Tim and I. You've both seen the photos in question.
Correct.
So I guess the questions are, 1, were the photos and the concept unique enough that it's fair to feel like these were lifted? 2, where is the line between inspiration and imitation, and does it even matter? And 3, if your client happened to see this situation surrounding their photos, how would you handle it? Okay, go off, king and queen.
Yeah.
Great ending.
Great ending. And as always, if you feel like you don't want to dox yourself on this podcast, you're welcome to be anonymous, as we have in the past. And we will for this photographer as well. We know this person.
Yeah. We always love when people submit things to us, and we as friends can maybe share our thoughts on it. And like, of course, we're going to share our opinions on the podcast, but there are certainly things that we can see when we get DMs that, will help us give a little bit more insight. Of course, if we were to share these photos with you, we're not interested in that kind of war, and neither is this photographer.
No.
And
This is a positive and supportive podcast. This isn't about tearing people down. It's about lifting people up and helping them be more confident in their businesses. So
for sure. And if anything, I would really love for there to be a world in which this stops happening. Unfortunately, this has been happening, probably since Michelangelo.
Dawn of Time type shit.
Like photographers and creatives stealing, borrowing, being inspired by each other is nothing new.
No.
It really sucks when, for this photographer, this happened in their local area.
Yeah.
And I always say, man, if you're going to steal from me, do it from Ohio. Don't do it from here. It's crazy to me. Remember back in the day, my website was getting lifted every
Constantly.
day.
You'd once a week you'd be like, look, another person. And then you'd
just
email them.
I would just go and search my About Me section in Google, and I'd pop it in. And honestly, I haven't done it in a long time. And it's because I don't want to. I don't want to know anymore.
It's too much work, man.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
The number of cease and desists I had to send out, because usually a first initial message is like, hey, what's happening here?
Yeah.
my about me on your about me?
Yeah. Why am
Why
I
is it
masquerading as you?
why
What's
is
going
it
on
the
here?
exact same? Like, why is my homepage text copy? My photos were never ripped off, which maybe is
Which is
like a
good.
sign. No,
Yeah.
I think it's a sign that I'm not that talented of a photographer.
No, I think it's just harder. People aren't as talented. But to the point of this photographer, having their photos ripped off, and we've both seen the photos. We're not going to share them because we don't want to.
But they are an almost 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Like one of them is an engagement session, as he said, and then one of them is not an engagement session, but it is like to paint you a picture, same very specific location.
Yes. I'd say same time of day.
Same time of day.
Same angle.
Different editing style, definitely
Sure.
same angle. Like
Sure.
this photographer would have had, the original photographer that submitted this would have had to do some pre-planning, some research in order to find the specific location. To like, the location really is, I would say, 80% of the image.
Yeah.
Don't
And
you
I
think?
would say that it's a very unique location. This isn't like finding the one brick wall in your town and being like, okay, well, everyone's pretty much shot there.
Like, that's my
or
purple
like
wall.
shooting in front of a venue, like in front of, let's say, the Laura Mill
No.
in town. I mean, like, well, there's the Laura Mill in the background. That's the same shot as someone else. That's very different.
Like I've seen people shoot in this general area
Sure.
before, because I've seen the photos from that general area before. I have never ever seen somebody shoot this location in the
From
way that
angle,
they did.
Yes.
And like, he has the receipts because he posted it, and then they posted theirs like 6 weeks later or something like that. So I just think, to answer your first question, were the photos and the concept unique enough that it's fair to feel like these were lifted? 100% yes. And it's a fair question, right?
For sure.
Because as you know, Tim and I know, because we have a really great friend and, well, my friend / colleague / my lawyer, who is an intellectual property lawyer.
Yes.
We know that ideas cannot be copyrighted.
Yep.
Okay. So unfortunately, dear Anonymous, you're, up a creek without a paddle. Is that the saying?
Yep.
With you have no leg to stand on here
Yeah.
when it comes to anything legal. He obviously doesn't care. They're not interested. They're like, whatever. So, but you still want to say, am I being crazy? Am I being wild for saying, is this my idea? Or do I at some point just have to say, well, a photo's a photo and a location's a location. And, we're all doing engagement shoots. You know what? Actually, I did what this dummy photographer did to somebody else, but by accident.
Okay.
So I had a client years ago.
Yeah.
They have like a 10-year-old now. So I'm talking like early days of my career.
Right.
Send me photos from their Pinterest board at their wedding venue.
Yep.
And then sent me photos from a specific location at their venue and said, I have this idea and I would love to do this photo like this. And the photo was basically them standing in this beautiful windowed alcove.
Okay.
And apparently there's a staircase. And like, this is all before the wedding. I had no idea.
Yeah.
There's a staircase here and she wants me to take a photo of them with her train and him standing there from above.
Right.
I take it. I think, wow, this is an incredible idea she had. I posted it.
Yeah.
And then a man named Dave sends me a message saying, hey, and he's so chill about it. He was like, hey, great photo.
You're welcome.
And then I'm like, this is so random. Why would this Toronto photographer send me that? And then I was like, wait,
I'm so sorry.
did I rip you off?
So
was that? Because I thought, wow, very creative of her to come up with this beforehand.
You had no
I'm
idea.
like, sure. Did I think that maybe she had seen it somewhere or something? Yes.
Yeah.
But did I think it was a photographer in my network? Did I think I was literally ripping off a 1-to-1?
Yeah.
Like, it was so embarrassing. And I had to
know.
send him a message being like, I'm so sorry. I really had no idea. Do you want me to take it down? He was like, no, not at all. Now thinking back on it, like when I first read this,
Yeah.
what if I was in this scenario, what I would do again would say, hey, do you want me to take it down? Now that you realize, if we're going to give this photographer the benefit of the doubt, we're not in this scenario, but if we were going to, what I would say is, okay, so if we give you the benefit of the doubt, just like Dave did when he messaged me and said, hey, nice photo. He didn't say, you ripped me off, you stole this from me, anything along those lines. He was just pointing out like, I see you.
Yeah.
And then I said, you want me to take that down? Because that's like literally.
Feels weird.
It's a weird situation. Yeah. And he said, no, it's all good. I like what you've done with it. Different editing style. It's all good.
Okay.
What I would then do now is I would put inspiration taken from.
Yes.
And then I would tag the creator and I would repost his work on my stories if they were cool with that, right? Because I think things have changed with social media over the last number of years. People are literally just recreating TikToks like that's their own thing.
Yeah.
Like Instagram has gotten to the point of actually resharing individual like
and you kind of want that
unique
virality.
content
You want
now.
your OG whatever it might be, whether it's a soundbite or your idea or your template to be copied, because that gives more credit to like your account and you get more views on your stuff because
in the
it's
same way
reshared.
that Demure post, right, has really gone so wild. Everybody's using Demure. But the critical part of that is always giving credit back to the creator. And sometimes it might mean some research.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might mean you need to actually look up who was the original creator because this thing's gone so far. I don't even know who first said Demure.
Yeah, I don't
even know who that was.
Since the beginning of this conversation, I've forgotten already. No, it's true. It's one of those
terrible.
things that
I actually forget her name, and
people,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We'll find it. Put it in the description. It's very funny you mentioned that because I remember this reminds me of something that your husband, our friend Taylor Jackson, has gone through with some of the social media things he created in the pandemic when there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And some of those ideas became campaigns for paying clients.
Yes, that's rough.
And that was really rough to see and annoying and also kind of expected based on who did it. So
very much expected, not one single surprise for many of us. But yeah, like disappointing for sure. And at some point, you know, like Taylor said, I can't, he didn't trademark the name that he called the thing. He didn't, there's no way to copyright an idea, right? At some point you just have to say let go and let God, which is obviously what this photographer is choosing to do because they're not losing sleep over it. They're saying, okay, but then here is the second question that we have to get to. Where is the line between inspiration and imitation? And does it matter? First of all, 1000% I think it matters. Yeah. Having been inspired and imitated. Yeah. And also been the person who has been the inspiration and the imitation. Yep. I've been the person that has probably ripped other photographers off intentionally or unintentionally.
Absolutely.
And I've been the person that's like, oh, I was just really inspired by that. Yeah. You go and forget sometimes, like 6 months later, and you're like, I don't even know where I came up with that idea. Yeah. I could freaking tell you. I could tell you where you came up with that.
I know exactly where that came from.
I know exactly where that came from.
Yeah.
I think there's a really big difference between inspiration and imitation. And actually, when Taylor and I first started educating photographers, this was a conversation we had often.
Okay.
Where we would have to tell people there's a really big difference between finding inspiration from my work, and we use these exact words, finding inspiration from my work and imitating my work. Yeah. And literally directly ripping it right off. And do I think it's a good idea to go on some people's websites and peruse their About Me section and see how they lay things out? Yeah. Absolutely.
For sure.
Do I think that you should take somebody's website, give it to your designer and say, hey, can you make this?
Duplicate this, please.
Put my name in there? No.
Yeah, no.
It's gross.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and this is why I think it matters, you will always be a shittier version of somebody else. You will never be a better version. Like, okay, if I said, Tim's killing it as a videographer.
Thanks, bud.
I want to do everything he does. It's really not rocket science for me to spend a lot of time dissecting your work, figuring out, okay, so he shoots Super 8. That's pretty unique. Yeah. I could probably send you a quick message really friendly and ask you where you get your stuff developed, where you buy your film.
All the time. And I'm not going to gatekeep Super 8 because I don't own the product. I don't own the developing rights.
Right.
It's a camera you can buy at a store. And I want, selfishly, and this is a good point.
I'm going to let you finish.
I'm going to let you finish. But
please.
The more people shooting Super 8 means the more people are bringing that to weddings and the more popular it becomes and the more I become a front runner for that style and that aspect. And I'm also, the one video I made promoting myself as a videographer, I reference Shark Pig, who's been doing this in LA since 2009.
But the people that you were inspired by who did it for weddings first, right? Because you weren't seeing anybody else doing that.
Exactly. Thank you for finishing that thought. Yeah. And giving credit to where credit is due is also super important. And I think that's something I've done from the beginning because I've always been inspired by their work. And it's funny, you say like someone could easily reverse engineer what I do, how I do it, but there's an aspect to it that they could never do, which is the customer service part, which is so closely tied to IP of how I present myself on a wedding day. It's my personality. That's what people are buying.
It's literally, 1987 Tim to hear.
Yeah.
We can't make that person
You can't make that.
And why would you want to, right? Because you're just going to be like, you know how people joke and say like, oh, that's the Wish version of whatever.
Yes.
I don't want a Wish version of me out there.
No.
It's going to not be as successful. And it's the same thing I said in when I've made courses and when I speak in my Facebook group and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want a bunch of shitty versions of me out there.
Yeah.
And it's not an ego thing to say like, oh, well, you're never going to do it as good. No, I just think you will do you better. I think you will do you better than you will do me.
Yeah.
That's just how that will be.
That's how it is.
And maybe this person could seek some inspiration in locations and style and all of those things. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Give credit where credit is due.
Yep.
If that's the vibe, you can even just reach out to the photographer and say, hey, do you think that's chill? Is that cool with you?
Totally fine.
And they will tell you if they think that's cool with them or not. You're in the same local area.
Yeah.
You think they're not going to see it?
You're going to fucking see it, dude.
Like, this photographer was like, yeah, multiple people sent it to me. So how embarrassing for the person that ripped it off.
Yeah. No, it's pretty wild.
Like, multiple people have brought this up. So it's obviously now it's not just... Sometimes we get in our head thinking, oh, was I being crazy and suggesting that location was mine? No. It's like, okay, not only is it not that location is yours, other people are saying this isn't just the location.
Yeah.
Speaking of location.
I was going to say, can we talk about locations? Because we're talking about IP and gatekeeping.
Not just a hill. This is a Rocky Mountain I will die on.
Banff. Just got back from Banff.
Oh, yeah. I went to Banff, by the way, you guys.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny little sidebar story. I went to Banff. And I didn't post one single grain, one single iota of my trip.
Okay.
Because I was in the weeds mentally last week. And the last thing that I needed, it's like clockwork.
Okay.
I go away. I get an email. Hi. Where's this thing that's not due yet? Well, it's going to be in your tight little inbox the day that I get home. Yeah. But I knew I didn't have it in me. And then I just thought to myself, why do I need to post in real time? I absolutely don't. No. I don't think it's going to benefit my business in any single solitary way to post in real time. I can always post these later if I want to when I'm in a better mental space. And I just went to Banff and I hiked these damn mountains and I had a big old stein of beer and I hung out with my girlfriend Rebecca and we chilled. Anyways, speaking of gorgeous locations. So
you have a few.
I have some really nice locations in my back pocket.
Yeah. And did you find these locations?
They are specifically in my back pocket.
Back pocket. Not in the front pocket. And you've had people reach out. So let's go back. Let's wind the gears back before we get ahead of the horse here with the cart. These locations, did they come to you in a dream? How did you find these locations?
So here's the thing. I think locations are really specific to each photographer.
Okay.
The types of places that you're going to shoot. The types of places that will vibe with you and your clientele. And not only that, the types of places that are good as far as parking and maybe they have a washroom and where does the sun set at what time and do they get really busy? Are they really crowded? I like to offer up, like, so one of the things that I noticed in the early days of my business is people would always say, and where should we do the shoot? And I'd be like, you don't have an idea? Like, that's on me. And it would stress me out. And then I kind of realized like, oh, this is actually like a really fun part of this because I am an outdoorsy gal. Yep. I love a walk. I love a hike. I've always, like growing up, I've always camped and spent times in conservation areas. And I think my work is informed by that. Like I do think like a lot of my work is very greenery and natural heavy. For sure. Naturally lit and all of those things. So I started trying to figure out like, okay, well, how can I level up my work? And it's funny because when you look at, say, photographers that live in the mountains or they live in the Pacific Northwest, you could go out blind with an iPhone and take better photos than some of the photos we take here with, much more effort and way better gear because of the location. Yes. And I love that for you.
It's beautiful.
But here in tiny little Ontario in Waterloo, we have to try really hard.
Because it's mostly farmland.
It's mostly farmland.
It's flat, marshy.
We get a lot of big trees, which is really nice.
It's great.
Not a lot of variety in a big treed forest. No. You're just looking at it,
And we're not talking redwoods. We're talking like just big, tall, and like
just a maple tree.
Yeah.
You could
walnuts.
get some sap. And, clients will offer up their own suggestions. And then over time you realize, oh, you guys can't be trusted because you just like this because it has an emotional attachment,
Yeah.
or you guys like to go on walks with your dog there.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a good photo location. Okay.
Not necessarily.
A good photo location, I think, has variety.
Yep.
It has a mix of shade and light.
Accessibility is also important.
Accessibility is really important. It's somewhere that you can offer up variety into your clientele of like, okay, so if you're looking something more urban, here's what I can offer you.
Love it.
If you're looking for something more natural, I would say this one has a big open field.
Yeah.
This one has water.
Yeah.
You want to go the water route? Here are a couple of options. You know what I mean? You have to come up with some options for your clients in order to
make it
it a proper business. So I have been doing this for enough years to know how important locations are. And back in the day, I used to shoot at this one location called the Huron Natural Area. And at the time, when I started shooting there, not one other photographer did I ever see. No one, literally nobody. It's a stunning location, very accessible, lots of paved trails, which is phenomenal for people with strollers, wheelchairs, really good parking lot.
Bathroom accessibility.
I started tagging the location on my stories, on my posts, and on everything because I just thought everybody should know about this. It's beautiful.
Right.
And I knew about the location because I grew up in that area. I grew up really close to there.
Yeah.
It's a really good location because a lot of people live near it as well. And listen, I am not suggesting that I paved the trail myself, literally.
But you kind of did for the photo community in this area, at least.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that I was like the one that put down the boardwalk. I didn't make this location. It is beautiful. The city of Kitchener gave it to us, you know? But no photographers used to shoot there. And then I started posting about it, and I would have people message me about it fairly often. That's how crazy it is to me, is that people didn't know what it was at the time, that there were people messaging me about it. This is the weirdest one. I'm going to really sound like I'm pumping my own tires, but one time I pulled up there was a girl dressed exactly like me with my exact camera bag that I had bought at B&H in New York. So she would have had to like try to get this camera bag. I'd never seen her before. She was like, "Hi, Lindsay. Oh my gosh.
Like, is this a mirror? What are you looking at here?"
And my clients were like, "Do you know her?" And I obviously I do the jovial, like, hey,
What's
nice
going
to see
on,
you.
buddy?
Cool to see you here.
Wow.
And my clients are like, "Who is this person?" I was like, "I have no idea who that is." And that is just evidence that I need to stop posting this location on my socials.
Yeah.
Now I cannot go there on a weekend.
Nope.
It's really busy because the area has also gotten busier just in like people living there. Like Huron itself has really popped off as a subdivision.
Absolutely.
But one Saturday in the fall, I went there and I counted 11 other photographers.
Wild.
And it's not that big of a space. So we're literally waiting on each other.
Yeah.
And I'm quick. So it sucks when I'm standing there waiting for these other photographers, taking their sweet time. They probably don't even know that I was the idiot that started sharing this. They heard about it from so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. They're like, I don't know who this person is.
Yeah.
That was my very first experience with like,
okay.
Maybe I should hold these a little bit closer to the chest here.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want other people to have great locations and great suggestions to give their clients, and I'm happy that they do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to locations that I know that nobody knows, like Huron, I would probably still tell people because I'm like, well, first of all, it's already
Cat's
out
out
there.
the bag.
If you don't know about it yet, I'm just confused. Like, where have you been? But there are some locations that are like next to private farmland.
Yeah.
Or
Another one.
Are like just really, really small locations that if I was to pull up there and there was another photographer there, it would actually screw up my shoot. Like Absolutely. It would actually do some, like cause me issues.
Sorry, I got a cough.
Please. And then there's other, are you going to live?
I'm okay. Yeah. Just went down the wrong pipe.
And then there's other locations that have been given to me by other photographers that I will never share.
Yeah.
Because that's not my location to share. And they asked me to keep it guarded.
Keep it secret. Yeah.
So I've kept it guarded. Keep it secret. And then there are other locations that I just plain and simply don't want to give up. They are really good. They're really nice. And I literally list them on my, because I have Pinterest boards where I share them with people. I like pin my own photos at locations so clients can have so I'm not just describing it to them. I'm like, let me paint you a picture. There's a field. There's a red barn. Like, I don't want to do that. So I actually put photos on a Pinterest board and I share them with people. And on these ones, I started saying LC's secret location because I would have the names of them there, and even other people would find these Pinterest boards again. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
At least say thank you. At the very least, say, hey, my client that used to work with you sent me your locations board. They really want to use this. Is that cool? And I'd be like, by all means.
Mm-hmm.
Dust
You've had
to
people.
dust to dust, ashes to ashes.
You've had clients reach out on behalf of their photographers to find locations you shot at because
that's
they love
criminal.
them.
And you know what? That's my own doing.
And listen,
Because I literally posted on Instagram saying, don't ask me for this location. So I knew
and
20
they did.
people were going to.
Yeah, of course. No, and it's not that Lindsay wants to gatekeep and keep people from doing successful work. It's that she put the effort and time into find these locations, to foster them, to make sure they're good for seasons that are beyond just one. They're good at sunset. Like she's put work into these locations to make sure that they're most bueno for her clients. And by giving that away, she gives away business. It's like walking into a bakery and saying, hey, you make some pretty badass croissants. May I have the recipe, please? I want to do this at home and not pay you any money. So give me the recipe behind the counter, and I will go home. I will buy the 00 flour. I will buy the baking powder. I will buy the butter that you've sourced from Montreal. It's great. Mm-hmm. And I'll laminate, and I'll cut, and I'll bake them, and then fuck you. And that's what people are doing.
And there's a bakery available next door that I'm going to take that's a more primo location.
Yes.
And because I just got to skip 30 steps ahead of where you are, and I skipped 4, 5, 20 years of experience, I'm now going to take all that time and I'm going to put it into better marketing.
Do you think a baker...
I'm going to steal all your clients because it won't cost me as much.
They're not going to give up their fucking recipes. Like,
no,
you can buy one and you can try and recreate it yourself.
This is the thing I don't get in the photography industry. Why do we think that this is an okay thing to do? Why
People
do we
value things differently?
Like, and it's crazy because I see, and I think we are going to get in shit for this. I do. I feel like if newer photographers are seeing this, they're going to be like, you guys are gatekeeping. You're what's wrong with the industry. Sue me. So sue me.
I get bills, man.
I have bills to pay. This is the most oversaturated industry.
Yeah.
I cannot be giving you everything. If you want to come to me and say, hey, what lens did you shoot this on? I'll give you my whole kit. I didn't make that thing.
Sure. Ask me my settings.
Ask me my settings. I dare you. If you want all that information, I will give it to you for free.
Dang.
I actually literally have a course you can purchase. You can go and you can literally shoot just like me.
Yeah.
I give so much away for what should cost a lot more.
Yeah.
All I ask is like a couple dineros in my pocket and I will tell you.
Yeah.
But instead people do shady stuff. Yeah. They have they have clients inquire with me.
Yeah, that's
pretending to inquire. And then I go and look and I'm like, oh, you're the same girl that messaged me on Instagram asking me for that location.
Yeah.
And I told you I only give out locations to my clients.
Paying clients. Yeah.
And which I think is valid.
Totally.
Oh yeah, I would love to share that with you.
Yeah.
Once you become a client, I'll share with you where it is. Yeah. No problem.
And anyone who's new at photography and getting into it, you're welcome here. This is a good space. It's a beautiful industry. It's a wonderful thing to do. It's a beautiful service you provide to your clients. You're new, and that's great. And it's lovely. And I love that for you. When you get to the stage of being 9, 10, 12 years into this business, you'll see why giving up these things to people who are younger than you and charge way less becomes a problem.
Yes.
Because it takes
Part
away...
of the reason why they charge less is because they don't have what we have.
Yes.
And what I've got is 12 years of walking around. That's literally what it is. I've just walked around for 12 freaking years. Yeah. And there's locations that we've shot at that maybe on the 30th shoot, we find that gorgeous willow tree.
Yes.
No, I don't want to just tell you exactly where that is. That'll hurt me a little bit.
Why would I do that?
Why would I do that?
Why would you do that?
The other thing is build a relationship.
Yes.
I'm going to bring it back to our anonymous person because, wow, I've really ranted on locations for a little bit.
You popped off a bit. It's fine.
It is a mountain I'm going to die on, and I'm okay with that. But I want to go back to, can you bring up their questions here?
Yeah. There it is.
So one of the things that I want to bring up is this person knows the other photographer in this scenario.
Correct.
And I would bet both my left and my right arm that if they had asked...
I was going to say something else.
if they had asked, hey...
Yes.
Do you mind? I love this.
Yeah.
They would have been like, absolutely, go right on ahead. In the same way that when people I've cultivated a relationship with ask me for my locations, I will give them not only the public ones, I'll give them the private ones too, because we are friends. That's what friends do. If I've never heard from you, if you don't even bother following me on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can't even give me the courtesy of a follow.
Dude.
Never mind $675 for a family shoot to hire me. If you can't be bothered with that,
Yeah.
no, unfortunately, I can't be bothered with giving something to you. It's a give and a take. And I think we've missed out on networking, right?
Yeah.
I would have never gone to an in-person networking event and met with marketers and met with business development people and done all of this and then said, hey, I know that you run that as a business, but could you tell me exactly how you run SEO for your clients?
So I can just do that
For free
and not have to pay you?
And not have to pay you the thousands of dollars that you charge. And you should charge because your intellectual property is worth something.
I think a lot of it stems from YouTube University.
We're lacking in networking again.
Formality to things, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think YouTube University has been great for a lot of people to be able to, learn from ground zero, to not know anything, to know something, and it's fantastic. It's a great way to, educate yourself and learn things. But when you're starting to come for someone else's lunch in the community that you work and live in, that's problematic.
You want to eat my lunch?
Yeah. Eat someone's lunch from Dubai. Eat someone's lunch from another country.
You can eat my lunch, but bring me the mustard first.
Yes.
I'll let you eat my lunch if you bring me a bottle of mustard.
Cut the bread diagonally.
That's fair. I'm not even asking you to bring me the whole sandwich. I'm just asking you to, let's share. There's a give and a take.
And there's price points and there's clients. There's a lid for every pot. And I believe that if a client wants to pay you $25 in loose meat to take their photo, that client exists for that photographer, and that's great. That's wonderful. But you're going to get a different kind of experience. Loose meat clients will get loose meat photos. And by piggybacking on what's an analogy for you? What would you say? Not loose meat.
Am I loose meat?
No, you're not loose meat. But I'm saying we're on the scale of loose meat to where you are.
Like smoked tempeh.
Nice. Yeah. You want smoked tempeh, you're going to pay smoked tempeh prices. And smoked tempeh comes from a very specific bay. Tempeh is not a fish. But but say it were. It would be a very rare fish that you need to know how to cultivate, how to grow.
It's vegan.
How to farm.
It's okay.
And it's vegan.
And it's vegan.
And I don't even understand it.
And it's organic and you don't understand it. And that's why that's what I am. Let's go to this caller's last question.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Please cut this out, Tim.
I can't. The final question we kind of answered already. If your client happened to see the situation surrounding their photos, how would you handle it? Oh, that was between photographers. How would your client handle it?
No, if your client happened to see this,
yeah,
how would you handle it? Like if your client comes to you,
oh, I saw that someone else did the same thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Which one of us ripped whom off?
Yes.
Have I ever had that happen? Yes, I have.
Okay, tell me about that.
So I'm sure you remember this because it happened at a venue that we have blacklisted, where I shot a wedding and the florist hired their own photographer.
Oh, yeah.
To shoot the wedding, which is absolutely not allowed.
Wild.
So I got in there and they're shooting details and I was like, okay, honestly, I just truly don't care about that. Go off. Literally go off. So they're shooting details and I was friendly enough. They're wearing like the decorator's shirt. So they very much didn't look like they were part of my team.
Yeah.
I was friendly, not a big deal. I am then in a consultation probably 6 or 8 months later.
Yeah.
And this bride is about to sign on the dotted line.
Sure.
And then she goes, oh, I just want to bring something up with you. So I have been all over your blog, perused your blog. I really loved that one wedding that you did. And then she opens a magazine. And this sounds like bullshit because of how dramatic this was. And I wish I could tell you it was, but not 1 ounce of the story is bullshit.
Yeah, I remember this.
There's receipts, so I could prove it to you if you need.
Print it.
She opens the magazine and she goes, does this person work for you? My face just drops.
Yeah.
I was like, sorry, can I see this for a second? My face is hot. I'm like, what's going on here? This is my wedding.
Yeah.
Using my couple's names, their first and last names, the bride and the groom, are in a multi-page spread in a magazine.
Yeah.
This photographer was working for the florist, but is also trying to build their portfolio.
Interesting.
And the magazine ran an entire, like, I want to say it was 4-page spread.
Wow.
Using photos, not just of the decor and flowers.
Your photos.
But not my photos.
Okay.
But of the bride and groom when I was not around. So she pulled them aside during cocktails, or she pulled them aside at some point and got a couple of portraits, had photos of them, the whole 9. And she said, which one of you did this? I was stunned. I was like, well, it doesn't look like I did because I'm not the one in print.
Yeah.
I later found out that the florist had paid for this spread,
Okay.
right? So the florist had paid for the spread.
Yeah.
You get to submit your own content to a magazine. The magazine can do whatever they want. I actually had a sit-down meeting with the editor, and I said, do you see how unethical this is? Because my client didn't know anything about it, first of all.
What'd they say?
I was like, they don't have a model release. They don't have anything. I said, did you not ask for this? They said, we print like thousands of weddings every year.
We can't keep track of this shit.
It's not our responsibility to keep track of whose intellectual property is getting stomped on.
Well, they're not a newspaper. They're a dying medium, you know?
I was like, you're getting paid like thousands of dollars for this. That's crazy. So anyways,
yeah.
The long story long of that is that I went to the venue because the florist works there very often. And I said, that can never happen again. They said, we're not policing it.
Wow.
They continued to work with that person.
Yeah.
I spoke to them. It went south really, really fast. I went on that photographer's website. Their entire website was a 1-to-1 of mine with their photos on it.
Still around?
Actually, no, I don't think so.
May that be a lesson to you children.
Yeah. I mean, again, I was like, it's the Wish version, dude. It's so confusing. Like, she was actually a talented photographer. She had no reason to do this, except she was trying to take the easy route.
Yeah.
It was so bad. But I had this exact situation happen. And the part that really pissed me off was I said to the photographer, if I lose this wedding, you owe me.
Yeah.
You owe me for that.
For sure.
And now I have to figure out what I'm going to do with these photos on my website, because I kind of want to be like, you may have seen this in Wedding
magazine that I did
Bells
not,
or whatever,
contribute to.
that magazine, and I had nothing to do with that, and that's illegal. But it's always a thing you can talk through for sure. I think that if you explain to your client, like, hey, I'm really sorry that happened. Obviously, this was my idea. And the nice thing is that you do have the receipts to show when things were published and when that all happened. And at the end of the day, like in my scenario, I literally had a contract with the client that I could have shown to be like, those were my clients. So that sucks that somebody did that.
Take these down.
Good little educational moment. No, you can't hire your own photographer to come and shoot over my shoulder. That will not go so well. And here's the exact reason why.
Here's why.
So yeah, I think it would be a sad feeling as the client. I do wonder, like, I don't think that they clarified if the idea, he said, we came up with this idea, but I do think it was them, the photographer, that came up with this idea, because he's saying, like, what if they think that I didn't come up with this?
Yeah. I wonder if clients care as much as we do. I guess that's always my thought and feeling. We're so steeped.
I think they'd be flattered.
In this world, they might be flattered to know that
their
location that they were scouted by their photographer was like also used by someone else.
And they're going to be like, cool. Did you see how, like, I've had people do this. Did you see how many people did their photos at this spot now?
Yeah.
And they just think like, we're the originators.
We're the OG.
That.
Yeah. So I think careless about that. I would be curious to know if your client is using these photos for something that's specific, or like they want it to be unique. Let's say it's a location that means something near and dear to them, and they see it blowing up and it's like, oh, that's no longer special to us.
If it was a private location?
Yes.
Ooh.
Not so bueno.
Which is why we don't tag locations on Instagram.
We try not to.
You know what? I have to say one more thing about tagging locations.
Hit it, dude. I want to talk about Wish stuff after this, so I want to hear what you have to say. Okay.
When it comes to tagging locations.
Okay.
Actually, we should have looked at the photos. We can't do that on here now. But we should have looked at the photos to see if they had tagged it.
Yeah.
Not to victim shame you, but I want to know how did they do that? Like, how did they find that? They must have just seen it, or they asked somebody, or I have no idea.
Gotta find out.
But I am kind of just a curious little cat about that portion of it. Like, how did they find that location? Yeah. The other thing that I want to say about locations is in Ontario, we don't have a lot of
no tag.
That's good.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of very, how do I put this
unique?
Nicely? Fragile ecosystems.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not like if we were in Hawaii. So actually, this is a really, I think, really good parallel.
Okay.
In Ontario, most of our locations that we're using are very public places that people know quite well. they're like paved. You know what I mean? If it's paved, if there's a parking lot that's paved,
It's got a parking lot and a ramp.
if it's on Google Maps,
Yeah.
and you can Google it and there's reviews on it, we aren't that precious about that one anymore. And myself included, I'm not going to be that precious about it. There are fragile ecosystems though that people find these locations because they are on a literal outback hike.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe they're willing to bring a couple of clients out there.
Yeah.
And maybe they're willing to do that because they are indigenous to the area. By all means, go for it. They're locals.
Yep.
And someone has shared that spot with them, or they've just found it on their own. And it's like not on all trails. It's not like a really easy thing for them to find. They didn't find it on Google Maps.
It's a geocache.
So yeah, and so if you were to location tag it, people would be really up in arms. And there are people that would be really up in arms. So when we did the Focal Nada conference and we were looking for locations
in Hawaii,
in Maui, we had photographers from the area say, well, I've got a bunch of locations, but here's the ones you can use.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to bring 40 people rolling up with gear and all kinds of stuff.
There's ecological ramifications to people trudging across land and fighting over each other to get the one photo. And we experienced that a bit in Banff. I mean, that was...
Yeah, we don't want to damage the ecosystem.
No.
We don't want to, I don't pretend to have a large enough following for this to be a thing. My following is quite local, so that's why I have issues with local people showing up to my spots. I'm not a big enough photography influencer that could happen, but say somebody like Taylor goes to Iceland and tags a location and perhaps his following isn't super respectful of the area.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you have like literal thousands of years of lava flow getting wrecked and and moss that's now destroyed that's been there for thousands of years.
Can't grow back.
That's not a good scenario.
That's not a good give back
and
to the world.
that would be on the photographer that shared it.
Yeah.
So while I don't think that our situation is quite that dire, thankfully, I do think, for the photographers that are like, why do you gatekeep? Well, that's a really good reason why we gatekeep.
There's more than just one reason. It's not always money. It's also...
And I'm not just worried about the one person going. I'm worried about the 30. And then I'm worried about the 30's clients.
Exactly.
And then I'm worried about the 30's clients' friends.
It's a trickle-down effect of like, we tell you and you tell how many people, and how many people do you tell from them, and how many people do they tell? Well, who told them? And so it's a cascading domino effect. And it's also I want to talk a little bit about the positives of this kind of location guarding, and not guarding, but just not openly sharing, is that you as a new photographer or an old photographer or a seasoned photographer, you get to go out and experience these things that feel unique. You get to go out and, like Lindsay said, go
Take
for a
a hike.
walk the dog, find some cows, see where they're going. Cows find
Take
interesting
a
locations all the
hike.
time. Follow a cow into a ravine that's maybe not private, you won't get shot at, but find a place that feels unique and be like, oh, I have this now. Instead of...
And it feels good because you're not the Wish version. It's you.
Bingo. It's you. You don't have to feel like an imitation of someone else. You get to be yourself and find a location that means something to something that you feel a client would love or that you would love. And it's personal, and you get to create moments and photos in those locations that feel authentic. And that's a beautiful thing. That's one of the beautiful things about photography, is that we get to find locations, find magic in the mundane in some places, find a parking lot with a weird angle. Like, that's cool. I'm going to shoot there every now and then. There's a triangle of Uptown Waterloo, little triangle zone that we like to shoot in. I often shoot in all the time because I know it well. Am I using the same angles every time? Not necessarily.
No.
I just know that it has a unique perspective of, you have rural, you have buildings with old bricks, you have wildly weird shuttered buildings. It crosses in front of the Perimeter Institute, which is a beautiful, weird, one of a kind architectural like designed thing. You have Waterloo Park there. You have animals. You have this beautiful triangle of like, it's walkable, it's parkable, it's got all this variety, it's got beautiful sunsets, and I'm there constantly, but I'm not just shooting in the same 6 locations. I'm finding different angles all the time.
Guess who gave us that location?
What's that?
Guess who gave us that location?
Who?
Taylor Jackson.
Taylor Jackson. You know why? It's close to their house, and he doesn't want to walk very far.
It was before we moved there, but that was where he used to always shoot, because there's that one alley that has wood, it has a reflective surface, it has a weird black wall, and when I started shooting, you can look back at my early days of engagement shoots. That's the only place I ever went, because I was the Wish version of Taylor. And we've talked about this before. I was just doing that. And then I was like, but I'm really more good at greenery.
Yeah.
So then I started doing
You
more
leaned into that.
So you have to share. In the early days, you're just going to shoot in the public spots that other people have shot, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But go for the freaking hike and do the walkabouts.
Don't just lean on that location, or find something about the location that is unique and you maybe haven't seen before, and position your couple in a different way, use different lighting. Find something that feels unique to you.
Do a free shoot with people,
because
I think sometimes it's really hard with a paid client to go outside the box with a location.
It can be if you're new.
You don't know. And honestly, still to this day, if I go to a new location, I have to tell people I haven't shot here before. I think it's going to be cool. But if I always have a backup plan.
Yeah.
If we run out of spots to shoot here, if I just like literally burn myself out here, I've got a place within 5 minutes that we can get to that's cool, tried and true, that I can get
It'll
us
be great.
to.
And that's why we have the studio. In case it rains, we can shoot uptown and we have a place to go to that is covered from the rain.
Yeah. I just think it's like, you know, it's effort. It's basically
it's a bit of effort.
It's a little bit of effort in order to be you instead of being the Wish version of Anonymous. You know?
This Wish version isn't just located and centralized around photography. We know a wedding officiant who is quite popular in the area, and he deals with a lot of people being the Wish version of him. I had a discussion with him not long ago about this. I've seen it at a couple weddings now where people are blatantly trying to be him.
So awkward.
In a way that's uncomfortable for not only myself, who knows what they're trying to do, but also everyone in the audience. I can see their faces being like, what the fuck am I looking at right now? This is a clown. What's going on? And they don't have the years of experience of this individual building their career, building their identity, building their persona to become this professional person presenting a couple as an officiant in a way that feels authentic. They're just taking what they've seen in videos and what they've heard him do, and they're just trying to take out the bits they think are entertaining, and they're building a personality on a bed of sand that's sinking into the ocean, and it's shit. And you can see it right away.
Yeah, there's no foundation. Actually, I think you've worded it really perfectly, Tim. There are gradual steps that need to be taken in building any career.
Yeah.
If you want to be at the top of your game, you can't skip the steps that
Foundations
get you there.
are so fucking important.
Right? So you have to do the sucky part to get to the really good part. Sure.
Yeah.
You can have some cheat codes along the way of people giving you little nuggets of information here and there, and we do it for each other and we do it for our friends all the time. But there are, like, for our friend the officiant, and we've seen people do these really awkward ceremonies. I'm like, so you missed the part where he started out doing that. Okay, I'm not really good at this. I'm gonna go in really professional then, because that's a simpler option.
Yes.
I'll go, like, that's the safe. You start safe, right? And we all start safe.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Most of us start safe, right?
Shoot on 2 cards, please. Back everything up on the cloud. Thank you.
Yeah. People are paying us. We should start safe.
Yeah.
So we start with the safe option, and then we get good at the safe option. And then we're like, okay, I'm a little bored of the safe option. What's the next thing?
Let's move outside the bubble a bit.
That's how you end up shooting Super 8.
I know it's tedious, and it's the one quote I keep coming back to is, everything you want is on the other side of something you don't want to do. Everything you want to achieve in life comes after the thing that's difficult to get to. If you do that, it's much more fulfilling. You'll have a way better chance of reacting to things that come up that are unplanned, and you can react in a way that's calm, collected, and you can deliver on what you promised your clients. And you'll just feel better. You won't feel like a fraud at the end of the day, walking home being like, oh man, that was exhausting, because you were being someone else for the whole fucking day.
Of course it'd be exhausting. Of course it would be exhausting. It's like when you're dating and you're trying to put on this like persona of like, oh, they really like this like type of girl, so I'm going to be that girl. Listen, you can keep that act up for max 60 days. Yeah. No, I say 60. I 60? Don't know. Yeah, that was when I was dating. Oh. When I was dating, I would give guys I would give guys a 2-month window.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think that they could always put on a good show for 2 months, and it was like a light switch went off. And I would come home. Well, I also didn't see these guys that frequently. Like I wasn't like a serial like, oh, I'm dating this guy. You
had a bench. Don't be ashamed. That's amazing.
I had a little bit of a roster going.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want any of them to take it too seriously. I wasn't taking it that seriously. I like to go on dates.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like 20-year-old Lindsay, okay? This is not
chill.
like,
Chill yeah.
It was fine. I was in university.
This is what you're supposed to do.
So I would like go on a couple of dates. I wouldn't see them for a couple of weeks and, see them again. And it was just like like too good to be true.
Yeah.
And I would always, I was still obviously living at home, and I'd come home, my mom would be like, how'd it go? And I was like, oh, 61. Showed their hand, they were an asshole.
Yeah.
Showed their hand, they were whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
their crazy came out. And it's like, it's not fun to do that. And I wonder how many of these guys would have actually, we would have vibed, we would have gotten along if they would have just been themselves from day one. But
kidding.
instead they tried to pretend to be this version of themselves.
Yeah.
And
then Mr. Hyde
weren't.
comes out on day 61. It's like,
And your clients are going to know. It's going to feel inauthentic. It's
Yeah.
going to feel weird. It's going to feel off, and they won't know why.
something will be off and they'll feel it.
And then
That's right.
one day they're
Yeah.
going to see Tim Musa on Instagram and be like, damn, that's who my videographer was trying to be like.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's going to happen. It's
gonna
just going to happen. So I think the moral of the story is here.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's get to the moral.
100%. The difference between imitation and inspiration very much matters.
Yes.
And it doesn't just matter for the people who are getting ripped off. I think I would hazard to say it matters more for the people that are doing the ripping off, because it won't feel good. It won't be sustainable. It won't be an enjoyable way to run a business. And your clients will be able to tell, and it will come through in your lack of ability to book things. It will come through in your lack of ability to charge what you're worth, because truthfully, you're not worth shit when you're just copying somebody else.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think the moral here is it's the same thing. It goes back to our very first podcast together. You got to drink the coffee, you got to do the work.
Do the fucking work.
There's no cheat code to being the best version of yourself. You
No.
have to do it for yourself.
Exactly.
And you're going to mess it up, and it's going to be awkward, and you're probably going to suck for a while.
And
It's
you're
going to
gonna
be embarrassing.
Ooh, another one. It just came to me. I was thinking about it when the hard things thing. My friend is a doctor, Dr. Jen. She's a forest.
Jen.
She's Dr. Jen Forstall. She's fantastic. She's a naturopath. She's moving to Spain. Very exciting. Gonna miss her a lot. But she subscribes to a way of life when she encounters new experiences and things she wants to get good at. The first 10 times you do something, expect to suck profoundly at it.
Profoundly.
Not just like a little bit, but like expect to suck.
You're gonna
And
be
know
bad.
that those 10 times are finite, and you're going to count them down, and it's going to get less and less and less. And then maybe by the 10th time, you'll feel something a bit more like a spark of inspiration. You'll feel like, oh, I'm better than I was the first time or the 8th time. That's going to happen because muscles get better with flexing and repetition and work. I don't work out, but things get better the more you work on them. If you commit to sucking a little bit or profoundly for the first 10 times you do something, by the 10th time you'll be a lot better off, and you'll see the inspiration. You'll know if it's something you want to do and something you want to pursue, and it'll
I
feel
think
good.
as long as you, and I think like embracing that suck, embracing that like I'm going to be bad at this
Yes.
is a really, it's like a freeing way of being, right?
Yes.
If you're expecting your first time to go out there and crush it, like I would hazard to say that the biggest reason why photographers do this, it's just coming to me now,
Here it is.
is the biggest reason why photographers rip off other photographers'
Okay.
websites,
Yeah.
their ideas, all of that is a deep level of insecurity. It's an idea that so-and-so is doing it better than me, and it's
Yes.
a perfectionism. And perfectionism is the devil when it comes to creativity.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to be perfect. It's literally impossible unless you're Jose Villa, which by all
Come
means,
on.
go off king.
Come on.
I can't stop saying go off king now because this person said this.
Yeah, it's pretty
But
good.
there is no such thing as perfection. And I think that that's what we're all striving for
Yeah.
is that type A, we're looking at things very, very much like we did when we were in school or university. We're trying to get the A plus.
Yeah.
How did you get the A plus then? Well, you read as much as you could, you ingested as much as you could, and then you got as close to the model as possible.
And you got C's for a very fucking long time.
Right. You literally went to school for a really long time,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
So I think that now when you're in business, first of all, there's a fear of being bad at it because it's embarrassing
Yeah.
from a creative perspective, but there's also an actual financial stake
For
on the
sure.
line, right?
For
You
sure.
don't want to be bad.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying something and being bad at it and risking people being like, wow, you really suck, which by the way, I've never really heard anybody say that about photographers.
No.
Like I've never, short of somebody doing spot color, which I'm like, interesting choice.
That was never
Like
good.
never would
just
we
'cause it was
say,
a-
wow, that photographer's terrible. The closest we
this.
would come to that is, it's not it's not
Not for
my
me.
vision. That's not my vision.
Not my babe. Not my pig. Not my farm.
But there is a pot there's a lid for every pot, right? And so there's a client for that type of person. Otherwise, they wouldn't be creating that kind of work. So
Bingo.
I think that, we can all use that advice to try to stop being so perfect. Try
It's
to
important
stop.
for me. This has been important for me as well. Just rehashing this thing. Because I also suffer from perfectionism. I want it to be perfect. But at the end of the day, couples just want to, feel good about the images that we create of them. If we've done that and the experience is good, 5 stars.
It's a very
5 stars.
You know what it feels like?
What's that?
It feels very demure.
Very demure. Yeah. Lindsay, we did it. 55 minutes. Look at us.
Wow.
That was a full epi. Thank you so much for being here, liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all the things so we show up for you on whatever platform that may be. As always, if you have a question you want to reach out to us, you can DM us on the Shoot Your Shot podcast on Instagram.
And thank you to this person for submitting this question.
Yeah.
I know it can be a little bit spooky, especially because we have some background information and you're a little bit worried, right? Yeah. But we will always do our best to keep your secrets close to our chest. We never want anything to come out that you would not want to come out. Yeah. So please feel free to ask these questions. Mm-hmm. And it's also a really good place to have some vulnerable conversations that maybe you can't have with the other photographers in your community.
Totally.
Have them with
through us. To us, through us, and with us.
With a few hundred or 1,000 other people. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for submitting your questions. It truly does make the podcast better. So if you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's a crazy situation. I also have some crazy situations I want to share.
We want to hear it.
Bring it up, baby.
And we want to build the community to be a better place. So please share it with us. That's it. Let's go.
Come on in and shoot your shot.
Goodbye for now. Goodbye.